Hey guys, what's up? Uh, Another video from me. Let's look at e-commerce. Okay, now, e-commerce is a topic that is important for both first PU and second PU. The second PU guys have less content to study than compared to first, but nonetheless, for the units you have 8 marks for the final exam weightage from this unit. I would suggest that you study this unit compared to others because this happens to be an extremely easy topic, right? I don't see the reason why I should go about skipping this. Okay, and I know I'm a little towards the right in this video, and I'm too lazy to adjust the camera. Bear with me. Okay, firstly, what is e-commerce? E-commerce is nothing but doing business online. Okay, it could be anything. Now, a lot of people today are coming up with some really creative businesses online. Now, for example, there's this website called Collectors Heritage. You guys should really check it out, especially if you're fans of movie merchandise. These guys have got everything. Last I checked, they were selling the Harry Potter robes, Harry Potter's glasses. They were even selling Game of Thrones merchandise. All that they were doing it online. Now, when you're doing business online, whatever it is that you're selling, it could be you're a graphic designer and you are talking about your services and you're telling this through your website. Okay, even that is considered e-commerce. In case of Collectors Heritage, they are selling movie merchandise. I think they were even selling Iron Man's helmet for around 14,000 rupees. It looks really sleek. Considering my budget, of course, I really couldn't afford it, and I even contemplated whether I can get it done in Kadrenhalli for just about 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. Hey, I'm Indian. I tend to think cheap. Okay, jokes aside, looking at the different types of e-commerce businesses. Now, when you want to do your business online, there are different ways in which you could go about doing your business online. Okay, the first way in which you could do your business online is a business model called B2B. Okay, business to business. Okay, a good example for a B2B website would be the IBM website. If you guys visit the IBM website, there's a link there called to build a smarter planet. You can go about submitting a business idea, and if your business idea happens to be something which IBM and you as a business can work together, IBM is able to fund your business idea, and IBM is even able to provide their research in improving your business idea. It's a really interesting business model what IBM has got. Especially they look at some really innovative businesses which are into quality, Six Sigma, pro environment, sustainable development. That's the kind of work IBM helps people out, and it's really nice. So B2B is effectively one business helping out another business. Okay, one more B2B website which I could think of would be Alibaba. This is nothing to do with the 40 thieves, none of the stories of the Arabian Nights, none of that. Okay, Alibaba.com is a place where businesses can get themselves registered and other businesses can hook up with them and they can do business together. Okay, for example, if I was a person who's into metallurgy, let's say I'm into the manufacturing of steel. Okay, I make steel bars for use for construction of apartments, use for construction of buildings. I could have a Larsen and Toubro contact me for a construction project. Larsen and Toubro could possibly find me on Alibaba. I would have mentioned the details there, saying where I'm working from, what's the quantity, minimum order requirement, 1,000 tons of steel, something like that. And Larsen and Toubro could do business with me, and I could go about helping them in this process. Now, there, me being a business, steel manufacturing business versus Larsen and Toubro, which is another business, is an example for business to business type of e-commerce. Okay, there's another one that is business to consumer. Now, I don't like to talk about business to consumer too much. It's because we've already been in touch with it quite often. Flipkart is a very good example for business to consumer. Amazon in India is known as Jungly. Even that happens to be an example for business to consumer. Okay, one business which sells products to consumers. Okay, there's another one that is consumer to consumer, or referred to as C2C. Okay, C2C, a good example for C2C is OLX. OLX, where it's a really innovative form of working. I've seen some really, really interesting products being sold, especially products which I thought you could never get anywhere in the market. Now, I'm into archery, and getting equipment for my hobby is not so easy, and even if I do happen to get it, it's quite expensive. I was interested to find a particular archery component. Okay, it's called as a stabilizer. And just out of curiosity, I just searched on OLX.com archery, and it turned out there's a guy in India who's selling his whole archery kit, which includes the stabilizers for 35K. Now, assuming this guy bought it from abroad, or he was a former archer for India, and now he's given up the sport and he wants to get rid of the equipment which he doesn't use. And he has posted an advertisement on OLX.com, and he's actually selling his archery gear. Now, that's an example for C2C. He's not a manufacturer, he's a person who bought it from somewhere, and now he no longer feels the requirement of keeping this, and he wants to go about selling it to me. Okay. Now, a quick recap: business to consumer, and the third one that you have would be consumer to consumer. Okay. Now, why do you go about doing e-commerce rather than a traditional business? Okay, one, the cost factor. Okay, it is one important factor would be the cost. To set up a website will cost you nothing more than 5,000 rupees per annum. Okay, a domain would cost you just about 600, and if you take up the hosting charges, I'm considering a deluxe hosting plan from GoDaddy, and that should be around that should be coming to little over 4,500. So effectively you could do it under 5. Okay, or if you're little being a bit of a cheapo, you could actually do it for less than 2,000. Okay, but I would advise you go for the best and you keep it to about 5. Just 5,000 per annum is all that it costs for you to set up a website. Okay, and contrary to doing a business in, say, in a commercial area, the rent alone would cost you just about 5,000 or maybe 6,000 per week of doing your business there. Okay, this is how inexpensive e-commerce is compared to a traditional business, the cost factor. Okay, secondly, you don't have any problem with managing inventory. All right, that's how Flipkart is able to do it. They don't have to go about displaying their products in any store. Now, when you want to display a product, it is quite expensive because you need to put up shelves, you need to go about putting up lighting, you need to have staff members who can talk to the consumers, and that's how expensive it can get. Inventory cost is something which is very difficult to minimize if you're doing business in the traditional sense. That's one of the reasons why you see institutions like Megamart come out with offers like buy one get two free or buy one get one free. Their objective here is not really to make a quick buck profit. Their objective here is to try and minimize inventory cost. If your product is just idle on a shelf, it doesn't really make any money. So what they do here is they try methods to sell the product as quickly as possible through those different marketing methods. You won't find that as a problem in e-commerce, because technically speaking, you don't have products to be kept on a shelf. They are present in a warehouse somewhere, but keeping it in a warehouse versus keeping it in a showroom, again, that's a big savings and cost you come across in terms of e-commerce. Okay, another benefit. Another cool benefit of e-commerce is the reach that you have when it comes to your business. Now, if you look at vipinmks.com, my website is not just restricted to the students whom I teach in college. Vipinmks.com is in fact available for anyone in the world. Who knows, I could have a cousin in the US who is referring to my website purely out of the research articles which I post sometimes. So I don't have any limitations on whom it can go about reaching. Now compare the same to a guy who owns a restaurant. The number of customers whom he would get would be limited to that locality. For example, if there is a very good restaurant in Cunningham Road, I would not be a customer. because for me that's like 15 kilometers from my place. I would think twice before I go to so far just for a quick meal. Okay, usually in terms of a traditional business, your customers are within a particular radius, say 5 kilometers or 6 kilometers from that radius. It doesn't really extend beyond that. Okay, so three benefits that I've mentioned so far. One, the cost factor. Secondly, the inventory management, and the third one, the reach of customers that you have is in fact quite easy when it comes to e-commerce versus that of a traditional business. Okay, one more important benefit. When it comes to doing business online, marketing is in fact quite easy to do. You have n number of free marketing platforms. You have YouTube, okay, you have Facebook. Facebook up to an extent happens to be free, but the small part of Facebook app is in fact quite wherein you need to go about paying for the marketing costs. But nonetheless, even if I consider the cost of marketing on Facebook, the least amount of money I would have to pay would be just about 40 rupees, and that doesn't even come to 1500 per month in terms of cost. Now, a traditional business, marketing cost in a traditional business is in fact quite expensive. It would run into lakhs together if you're trying to advertise through newspapers, if you're trying to advertise it through radio, or if you're in fact trying to advertise it through those big billboards. Okay. Now, coming to the other concepts of e-commerce, actually, if I'm not wrong, in the first PUC, the unit is named as e-commerce and some blah blah, modern emerging businesses, something like that. Okay. Anyway, you know how lazy I am to look it up in the book, but let's come to outsourcing. Outsourcing, okay. When you talk about outsourcing, it's not always call center work. Okay, call center work happens to be one of the things that people do, but outsourcing is there in many, many cases. Okay, one good example of outsourcing here is you don't really have companies like, say, for example, BSNL, they don't have employees of their own who actually deal with the call center work. They've outsourced it, they've given it off to a third party to take care of those little bits of work. Now, outsourcing is something wherein you take away the non-core activities of your business and you have a third party who will do this work for you. Okay, remember the keywords here, non-core activities. A core activity of a business is one which generates revenue for it. Okay, non-core activities are important, but they don't generate revenue. Okay, but they don't generate revenue. What the business would like to do is focus more on the activity that generates revenue and less on the activity which is important but doesn't generate revenue. Okay, now for example here, Syndicate Bank, the core activity of Syndicate Bank happens to be the banking functions, of course, giving out loans and in fact accepting deposits. The other activities which they happen to have outsourced would be, for example, their net banking work. The payment gateway of Syndicate Bank is not designed by Syndicate Bank. Syndicate Bank has not hired any software engineer, had a contract with them and said, look, develop a website for us so that we can have our customers log in and use the net banking work. What in fact Syndicate Bank has done is they've outsourced the payment gateway and the net banking work to this company called Arcot Systems. Arcot Systems is the one that runs the payment gateway for Syndicate Bank. Now, why did they do this? Of course, Syndicate Bank, being a bank, doesn't really have any knowledge about the world of the internet and designing a payment gateway for its business. So the next best thing they would do is give it off to someone else who is already an expert in this matter. And those guys are going to do this work rather than Syndicate Bank doing this work. That happens to be outsourcing. In fact, in colleges, you would see that the security guards have in fact been outsourced from an agency. Okay, there itself you would go about finding outsourcing. Okay, the college doesn't hire security guards and put them on a payroll. Okay, they have agencies that do this work. Then, What are the different types of outsourcing that you would come across? The first one there is BPO, business process outsourcing. Okay, business process outsourcing is, to put it in a very crude manner, control C, control V work. Okay, I had these colleagues of mine in the previous company. They were working for a division called client services, some GES, some client services. I don't know what their full name was, but they were calling themselves client services. Now the name sounds very, very cool, client services, but pretty much what they were doing was control C, control V, to be very honest. Their jobs really don't require much skills. In fact, most BPOs don't really command a high degree of skill that, okay, we require a person with really good communication skills, neutral accents, and none of that is required. And hardcore Excel work is not required. BPOs effectively do grunt work. Okay, you have BPOs that take care of these little things which a business tends to ignore. Okay, like for example, it could be preparation of reports. It could be, in fact, for example, IBM outsources some of their call center work to these companies. Like when you post your resume on the IBM website, there are little companies, other companies which go through your resume and they check, okay, what job, in fact, which IBM has got vacancies for, and in fact, if your resume goes about matching that particular job. Now, these are the things which a BPO does. That they don't really have something which requires a strong knowledge of the domain in order for you to do it. Okay, but nonetheless, they're required to be done. Hence, they go about doing it. Then LPO. LPO here is legal process outsourcing. Okay, legal process outsourcing requires a strong degree of knowledge when it comes to the legal world. Myself, I can't work in an LPO because I don't know anything about I don't know a lot about the acts that have been done in India. You could have LPO work, for example, one company and the other are doing business and they need to draft a contract so that they can sign. Now, you would have an LPO that goes about drafting that contract and these guys sign that agreement. Okay, now that's an example for what an LPO would do, and you would require a great degree of skill to be a part of to be part of an LPO. Okay, LPOs command people who have actually completed their law degrees, unlike BPOs, wherein there are some BPOs wherein they hire people just based on their communication skills and not really based on the degrees or qualifications that they have. Then the last one that you have there would be KPOs. KPOs happen to be knowledge process outsourcing. A very good example of a KPO is this company called Amber Research. They do a variety of KPO work. For example, it ranges from equity research, derivative valuations, derivative accounting. Derivative accounting is really interesting because derivatives don't require you to mention them in the balance sheet. Okay, you don't have to go about declaring that I have invested in so many futures and options. However, you need to go about accounting them because the value of derivatives when you trade them runs into crores. Okay, so you have institutions which do KPO work, and they are into work like derivatives valuations, derivatives research, and derivatives accounting as well. Amber Research, in fact, does equity valuations. That is, when you have someone giving information on what stock to buy, what stock to sell, not just from Indian markets, from the global markets point of view, Amber Research does these things. And to be part of that, you need to be very skilled in terms of your awareness about that particular domain. And it could be having very high qualifications, very high degree of certificates. That's the way you get into these companies which do KPO work. KPOs, I've heard, even do competitor valuations as well. Like if Coke wants to destroy Pepsi for God knows how many times they've been attempting, they give these tasks to a KPO and tell them what's the next big marketing gig we can do, and and how do we go about taking on our competition. Now, those are the things which KPO would do. Okay, the this is in fact should sum up e-commerce. Okay, I hope you guys like this video. There's a subscribe button somewhere there, I don't know. Okay, do hit subscribe and do follow vipinmks.com. Okay, I'm sure that you guys would like the content there. Thanks again. Bye.